So today we're going to be replacing this electronic rear coupler on a 2023 Nissan Rouge. We'll start by removing the drive shaft, a couple 14mm bolts here, and then some 12mm bolts holding the actual coupler onto the rear assembly. Starting off, you want to go ahead and unplug this first plug right here, the only plug going into the coupler. Just kind of tuck it up somewhere where it's not going to get damaged or anything like that. That would be a pain to repair. Got some brand new drive shaft bolts as well as a brand new coupler assembly. Brand new in the box. Like I said, this is a 2023 Nissan Rouge. It's got about 1,000 miles. It's 1,023 miles. Basically new still, so it had a bad rumbling in it. Let's see, you're gonna need a 14mm socket and wrench as well as 12mm. I ended up not using the swivel 12 or the impact gun. I didn't need those. But like I was saying, this vehicle had an extremely bad binding feeling while you were driving. You can definitely hear it, feel it, and as soon as you unplug the rear coupler, it went away. This is a 10mm Allen to drain the fluid out of the rear end before you go ahead and replace the coupler. There is a service bulletin for this job. It'll give you all the parts you need, everything like that. Starting here, I'm going to go ahead and drain the fluid out. We'll need a drain pan for that. I got it on speed because I'm sure you don't want to watch the whole thing in here. But as we get through this, kind of just talk through it. We're doing a voiceover on this video because I'm too far away from the camera during the video to actually talk, and yeah, I didn't have a mount, like a tripod or anything to actually bring the camera over to the vehicle, so you guys are kind of set back on my toolbox. But here we go, draining the fluid out of the rear end. Make sure you actually have fluid in stock. The vehicle is, like I said, a 2023, and after I replaced the rear coupler, I had to wait for fluid to come in because I didn't order any, so that was great. Other than that, I'm going to start taking the bolts out of the drive shaft there. Yeah, first I'm going to bungee cord up the drive shaft just so I don't have to take it all the way out, just kind of hold it up. I bungee corded it onto the exhaust because they're right next to each other. It's pretty simple. But yeah, like I was saying, it's 14mm to take off the drive shaft. Pretty easy with just a standard 14 wrench. Maybe a ratchet wrench would make it faster, but once you break them loose, the bolts kind of just come right off. It's still brand new, so. That's where I decided to use the extra long box head snap-on wrench to get one of the top bolts out there. It was in a weird location. Could barely get to it, but the assembly is a lot quicker than the disassembly, so that's good. So just go ahead and remove all 4 of those 14mm drive shaft bolts, and since we have new ones, you can go ahead and throw those in the trash. Bolts with the nuts, we have all brand new. And then the 12mm, there's 4 12mm holding the coupler on as well. I'll work our way through there. putting the drain plug back into the rear diff there, wiping it down, keep it clean. Make sure it's nice and snug so you don't have to come back to it when you're filling. I believe now I am starting those 4 bolts holding the coupler onto the rear assembly itself. Give it a good shake to get the assembly out. It kind of didn't want to come out at first. Just go ahead and rotate it around a couple times, back and forth, pulling out at the same time. Should pop out eventually. Like I'm going to reference later on in the video, you do want to make sure you have consult connected before you start removing this electronic coupler, because you will need the serial number off the all-wheel drive ECU. You're just going to want to write that down for reference. Once you install the new one, you're going to have to set the serial number to the same number as the one you just removed, or you'll have to lift the vehicle up and plug it back in, which just takes more of your time. Alright, now that we got the old one removed, fuel drain, and then you're going to want to clean that area out extremely well before you put the new one in. This is the bungee cord, how I have the drive shaft held up. And the new coupler here, just took it out of the bag. There is a little bit of oil, excess oil inside the bag. Let's go ahead and use that oil to oil up the O-ring in there. No sealant needed, it's just one O-ring. And your new drive shaft bolts here, so go ahead and remove the nut off the bolt. And you're going to want the bolt to go through the drive shaft and the nut to go through the coupler. The drive shaft has these grooves in it that hold the bolt in place while you tighten the nut, so you don't need to use 2 wrenches. So yeah, just make sure you put the bolt through the drive shaft first. Go ahead and disconnect that bungee cord after you tighten all your drive shaft bolts. Don't want to leave that under the vehicle. Like I said, make sure you tighten all the drive shaft bolts as well as the new coupler bolts, and go ahead and plug the new coupler back in. Make sure you hear a audible click when you're pushing it in, and then snap the safety pin in. Put the old differential or electronic coupler in the box and give it back to parts for warranty, and go ahead and fill up with this LSC coupler fluid from Nissan. And this is the identification number for the all-wheel drive ECU I was telling you about earlier. There's going to be a couple different options for you to choose from when you install the new one. Alright guys, I'm home. Finished up with that Rogue today. A couple things I didn't mention afterwards because I didn't film the installation, only the removal, which is okay because the installation is basically reverse steps, just put the stuff back together. But after you're done, or let me rephrase that, before you even start removing it, you need to use the laptop and go on to consult, and you need to check your ECU number for the all-wheel drive system. Take a picture of it, write down, fucking save it on the computer. It doesn't matter. Just you need to write down the I guess you can call it serial number of the all-wheel drive ECU. They called it like some other kind of number, serial number, part number. They were calling it like a ROM data number or some weird shit like that. But yeah, you need to save that number, and then when you install the new rear diff, you need to go back into consult, and you need to reprogram that ECU. And when you put the new diff in, or rear coupler, whatever they want to call it. When you install it, the ECU is going to have all zeros, so it's going to have a blank ECU, and you need to. There's going to give you like 5 or 6 options. I saved a picture a couple minutes back in the video, but there's like 5 or 6 options you have to choose from, and you need to match the old ECU number with one of them 5 or 6 options that they have there on the list. Mine happened to be the very first number on the list, which I didn't know at first because I didn't check the number when I removed it, and I just went ahead and installed the new one and plugged it in, and I had a blank ECU, and I was like, mind blown. So I didn't have to remove it or nothing. I just lifted the vehicle up and I plugged the old one back in. I put the old one in my oil jug, lifted it up all the way, and just plugged the dang thing in, and then I took a picture of the number, unplugged it, plugged the new one back in, moved the oil jug out of the way, lowered the car, programmed the ECU, and then you also need to do some. Sorry, I just ate. Finished my protein shake too, so. Whew. But you also need to do like an air bleed of the rear differential, and add fluid, of course. Don't forget to add the new fluid. But you need to use the laptop and do like an air bleed and a deterioration test of the fluid, or else it's going to throw codes. So you need to do those 2 things: reprogram the ECU, do the deterioration test, and your codes will go away. Send it on its way. But yeah, it was pretty cool, something new, because I don't mess with electronic stuff, you know. Everything I have is carbureted, fucking easy to work with. But yeah, kind of cool. New cars are cool. The computer stuff is weird because you literally need a computer for everything you do. To everything. Change transmission fluid, you need the computer. Change rear diff, you need a computer. Fucking change airbag, you need a computer. It's super annoying, but I'm getting it. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. It's kind of a different video, but it is what it is. Yeah. See you guys maybe next week? We'll see. I don't know.